Welcome back to the Ambitious Yellow podcast. I'm so excited to have you all here because today we have a very special guest. Her name is Sophia, and she is an EFT and emotional healing mentor for high achieving women. And today we're going to be talking about her journey and what got her here, and basically how you can implement EFT and how you can heal emotionally as a high achieving woman, because it's so hard for us to actually do that, right? We are high achieving women. We do not have time for self care most of the time. And we're here to change that perspective. So, hi, Sophia. Welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I'm really, really excited to talk about all of this because ever since we've connected, I've just been like, oh my God, we really need to have this chat because I feel like there has been quite a bit of talks and quite a lot of content about EFT. And when I found your page, I was like, oh my God, she does this exact thing. And she puts it in such an amazing way that I think would really resonate with my audience. So before we actually get into everything, I would love for you to tell everyone listening to the podcast who you are, where you come from, what got you into EFT, and how you ended up basically here.
Yes, I love this question so much. So I am Sophia. I am a women's EFT tapping coach and emotional healing mentor. And I'll go all the way back through childhood because I grew up in a family where there was a lot of chaos and alcoholism present. I had amazing parents, but they divorced when I was 3 years old. And I don't really have a lot of memories all the way back that early, but what I do know is that from a young age, I was always reprimanded for my crazy temper tantrums. I was a very emotional, intense, passionate little girl, and I just didn't know how to express myself. And whether it was with my parents or whether I was around friends or in school, I always felt like I couldn't fully express myself. And so little by little, I started to kind of dim my light, shrink myself to make other people feel comfortable. And I would stay quiet because in my mind and body, that was how I was safe. My nervous system felt safe if I just shrunk. And so this led into middle school. I was bullied for the way that I looked because I was a mixed ethnicity. So I'm Puerto Rican, Portuguese, English, Irish, Dutch, German, a mix of a little bit of everything. And I had really curly, frizzy hair, hairy arms, a mustache, and kids can be very cruel. So I was bullied. And then in high school, I started to look around me and I was like, oh, I look different. I dress different. I want to fit in and be liked and be accepted and loved. And so I basically started doing everything I could to fit in with the cool crowd, quote unquote. So I started to straighten my hair. I started to shop at all the same places. I started to party and drink and use substances. And when I was 15, I went to my first music festival where I just really had, fun back then, but it was like, oh my gosh, this is the way that I can feel a sense of belonging. So if I drink and party, everyone will want to hang out with me, I'll be fun. And that basically started a 15-year cycle of lots of self-sabotage, self-abandonment, going out, and I got into a lot of just toxic relationships and friendships and was so disconnected from who I was authentically underneath everything. And I basically just checked society's boxes and lived life on autopilot. I was always so ambitious, like I was always high achieving. So even though I was partying, I was working 60-hour weeks in corporate, side hustles, like doing it all. And finally, when I was 29 years old, I looked in the mirror and everything just had come crashing down. I was fresh out of a relationship, very heartbroken, in $20,000 of credit card debt, really unhealthy. I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. And in that moment, I just knew that I had to change my life. Like there was no going back. And I ended up going and doing an ayahuasca journey. And while I was there, it was so incredible. There was actually an EFT person there, an EFT coach, I guess you could say, an EFT practitioner. And he sat down with us and showed us the science behind it. And we did a couple of tapping sessions. And at that point in time, I was still like just starting my healing journey. So I didn't really understand it. I was like, why are we tapping on these points? I don't get it. So it didn't fully land, but I never forgot about it. And about a year ago, I started watching Brad Yates on YouTube. He's like the king of tapping, and I fell in love with his videos. I'd wake up every morning and do a couple tappings, and I felt this profound energy shift. I felt so much more grounded, more in my body. I was showing up more confidently online in my business. And I just started getting out of that survival pattern that I was stuck in for so many years. And I started to just feel good again. And so that's how I got into tapping. And I realized, like, wow, I can teach women how to leverage this in their own lives and get out of that autopilot living and start really living with more intention and loving their life.
I absolutely love that. And I'm really, really, really grateful that you shared your whole journey with us because I know that it's not easy to talk about these things. And what I found though is that most healers and most people who can help others the most, they really do come from hardship because that's where we truly can find ourselves again. I really just appreciate, you being here and you sharing all of this. For those of us, or technically the girlies who don't know, who are listening, because obviously you have found EFT for yourself, but what is EFT for those who don't exactly know? And because I know that, most of us love the sciencey bits behind it. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of like not just what EFT is, but also the science behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question so much. So, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, which is tapping. And essentially, it comes all the way back from ancient Chinese medicine. I almost like to tell people it's like acupuncture, but without the needles, because we're literally tapping on the meridian points on the body, which then sends a signal to the amygdala, the part of the brain that's responsible for processing fear and stress. And so essentially, what we want to do when we're tapping is focus on a specific fear, limiting belief, anxiety that's coming up in the body. And you're going to tune into where you're feeling it. And so when you're tapping, you're getting very specific about whatever it is that you're tapping through. And essentially, what's happening is it's sending a signal to the amygdala, which is saying, I am safe. And so once it's sending the signal, immediately you feel an energetic shift. You can feel the energy moving through your body. What's beautiful about EFT tapping is that it's a mind and body tool. So it blends cognitive therapy, which is thoughts, behaviors, and patterns, with somatic therapy, which is healing through the body. And so it's such a gentle, beautiful modality to not only help you regulate your nervous system, but it also helps you rewire subconscious beliefs. And what's also really cool that I always like to mention is it helps to reduce cortisol levels. So a lot of times girls are watching, the TikTok videos and it's like, oh, drink this drink to lower cortisol. All you have to do is tap on these acupressure points to start to stimulate that energy, and you will automatically start to reduce your cortisol levels.
I absolutely love that. And especially as a daughter of a Chinese doctor. I mean, my mum's from Hungary, but she went back to university when she was 45 to study acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So, I just found this so interesting because I feel like a lot of the times we just see, girlies just tapping away or introducing like drinks or supplements to help reduce cortisol, but we don't necessarily hear about the actual science behind it. So I really do appreciate that you've explained it in so much depth, and especially because I feel like lots of the times with so many things out there, we're just very skeptical. So, and we do have to be skeptical technically. So I just really appreciate that you've explained it all. And just like out of curiosity, because there's so many different ways that you can, heal somatically and also like, mentally, so like basically like the psychological therapy and then also somatic therapy wise, what was the thing that really hooked you into, so to say, when it came to EFT tapping? Because you mentioned ayahuasca retreats, which is obviously quite a harsh harsh way to heal, but what drew you to EFT and why is it the tool that you think really stuck with you?
The reason why I chose EFT is because I have done so much of the inner work. Like I did ayahuasca, I've done a lot of the really deep trauma-informed breathwork practices. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place and a season for all different types of healing. But I just needed something that was a little bit more gentle that also helps me to regulate my nervous system and rewire my subconscious. And for a long time, I was also doing a lot of mindset work. I was journaling, I was practicing all the affirmations and doing a lot of work, but nothing in my life seemed to shift. I was still really in survival mode, in fight or flight, and I couldn't quite figure out why my reality wasn't changing. And what I realized through all of this is that I wasn't regulating my nervous system. And so my body was still saying change is unsafe. I was wired for chaos because of childhood. And so anytime I would try to make a change, it would alert my subconscious and my nervous system of danger. So what I started to realize is, okay, this mindset work is very important, don't get me wrong, but it can't be the only thing you're doing. And so then I started to get into the breath work, and then I started to do, a lot of grounding in nature and tapping. And tapping for me is the one thing I realized had the most profound impacts. Like, it was helping me really shift limiting beliefs very quickly. It was helping me build confidence. It's a modality that you don't have to be in a safe place to do. Like with breath work, you want to be comfortable, you want to have your eyes closed. Same thing with meditations and visualizations. EFT tapping, you can literally do it in the back of a taxi or an Uber. You can do it at an airport, anytime, anywhere. It's a portable tool that you can have in your back pocket anytime you're feeling anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, or just needing a little bit of a reset. And so for me, it was just a really good tool to have at all times. And it had the most profound impacts because it literally is a mind and body tool.
Absolutely love that. And you're so right about it being there with you at all times. Because even like if we were to look at sort of like obviously hands are always there. Even I tell my clients like when you're traveling, when you're out and about, like you don't want to be carrying a scale with you. Or same thing works with like EFT, right? Like you always have your hands with you to tap. When it comes to nutrition, obviously just trying to draw parallels. We use hand measurement targets with my clients when we travel. I absolutely love that. And it's a very portable tool. I already have experienced how EFT feels thanks to one of my friends who's invited me to like a cold dip and sauna session where they had an EFT session while we were in the sauna, just like sweating. Sweating like crazy. But for those who have never tried EFT, can you just tell us a little bit or tell me a little bit about like how it feels, like what kind of shifts do you feel? Because I feel like that is something that might hold people back from it, and they might just be like, oh, I don't feel like I'm not going to feel anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say that it really depends on what you're trying to move through. Let's just say you have anxiety and you're tapping through. What you're going to feel is different sensations in your body, first and foremost. A lot of times people experience yawning, like that's a very common one. So when you're tapping on the meridians, you'll start to release energy through yawning. And you will immediately feel like this deep breath, essentially, like, oh, like everything feels so much lighter. And a lot of times, what I recommend is in the beginning of your session, giving yourself a rating on a scale of 1 through 10 to notice how intense the energy is. So, if you feel really anxious and uneasy, maybe give yourself a 10. And after you tap through, you'll notice how that number shifts. But yawning, sometimes you'll get like buzzing in your ears, tingling sensations in your body. And overall, you will just feel a sense of like lightness and almost like this weight off of your shoulders. And then as you continue going, you'll just notice different sensations. And then a lot of times like that anxiety that was present just isn't there anymore. It's incredible.
I absolutely love that. Yes. And with that, I actually wanted to kind of like ask you how you integrate EFT into your coaching practices, because you work with a lot of high achievers who want to just come back to themselves, right? Even like your podcast is called Her Journey Home. You coach women to just come back home and really feel grounded and break free from like any kind of like societal expectations. So how do you use EFT for it? Because obviously it is a really great way to regulate your nervous system, but how do you use it as a tool to actually just like ground yourself and really learn about yourself even more?
Yeah, amazing question. So, really, with my home method, which is essentially number one is healing at the root and really healing your identity. Second is O, which is owning your power through healthy habits. And then M is meeting your inner child, and E is expanding into your highest self. And so we use EFT through the entire home method, but essentially the first part of it is really getting to like the root of the self-sabotaging. So whether that is people pleasing, perfectionism, overachieving, avoiding, like there's so many different self-sabotaging patterns. and we get to what's underneath that. And we do this through EFT and regulating your nervous system. And what I like to say is a lot of times these self sabotaging patterns are simply protective mechanisms, they're not flaws. And a lot of times we think that that's the issue, but there's actually a fear or belief underneath these patterns. So, like, for example, people pleasing, it's like fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, right? And so we'll start tapping through these actual fears. And a lot of times, my clients are ambitious women that are burnt out, they're stuck in that survival. And so it's actually slowing down and getting their body to a place of safety where they can start to actually feel the shifts and start to transform their lives. Because if we're going at this while they're in fight or flight or they're in survival mode, big changes are not going to happen. They're not going to feel safe. And so we really reconnect them with their intuition, getting back into their body, and creating small aligned action steps that align with this new identity that they're creating.
So, question here, because I feel like high achieving women, obviously, we struggle with people pleasing a lot, and it's very, very hard to break away from it. But it's like not necessarily because we don't want to, but rather because we do not even have the time to think about whether we're in survival mode or not. So, how does one start identifying that? And how does one start being more conscious and creating more space for herself to really just step away from that slowly?
So, first and foremost, survival mode really looks like constantly being on. So, like never saying no to things that aren't aligned, always overextending yourself, needing to prove your worth to everyone around you, feeling like if you rest, you feel this overwhelming sense of guilt and you just don't feel safe to rest. Like your nervous system is literally wired for that chaos and survival. So, resting just feels unsafe. So a lot of times, like the first thing I'll guide clients is like really tuning into their bodies, asking themselves, do I feel safe when I rest? Can I slow down without feeling guilty? Am I making decisions from fear or from intuition and clarity? Because I was stuck in a loop for so long of making all these unaligned decisions from a place of FOMO and needing to do something instead of just slowing down, moving all of that fear and regulating my nervous system and then making a decision. So I would say that's most important is to really pay attention to your current patterns. Like, are you allowing yourself to rest? Is there a lot of fear? Are you putting everyone's needs before your own? Are you constantly people pleasing? These are all signs that you are in survival mode. And then from there, what we do with EFT tapping is create that inner safety to really be able to expand into the joy, the rest, making, bold decisions and actually getting to a place of being able to just express yourself authentically and be who you want to be.
Absolutely, absolutely love that. So, we've obviously talked about how it can help you get out of survival mode and also why self sabotage happens. But when it comes to really truly just creating that space for yourself to actually rest, obviously it's a very hard step to start making. Even with my clients, I feel like whenever we start stripping back their plan of like going to the gym 7 days a week, we strip it back to maybe 3 to 4 times a week, they get super scared. So what are some first steps that you would recommend women to make when they realize, okay, I'm actually acting out of this survival sense and I'm acting out of fear? How can they start slowly stepping away besides obviously EFT tapping? So what are some like daily routines and practices that they can easily start implementing?
Yes. So the first thing that I would say, number one, is actually start to get clear on these patterns within yourself. Like, what is the fear or belief underneath the pattern? So grab a journal, start writing down anything that comes to mind. You can even just start brain dumping. That's been really helpful for me. So if you notice yourself people pleasing, overextending, feeling burnt out, and you're like, okay, I'm aware of this, but like, what is underneath this? A big one is procrastination. So if you feel like you're trying to start the business or you're trying to launch the podcast or you're trying to do whatever, okay, get clear. Like, why am I procrastinating? Like, what's under here? Am I scared of failure? Am I scared of success? Am I scared of being seen? Like, start to really get clear on that because then you can start tapping through those limiting beliefs and those fears. So, the next thing I would say is 5 to 10 minutes of EFT tapping every single morning. It's so easy to do. You can literally do it before, after you brush your teeth, after you journal. Just make it a daily habit or ritual. Another thing that I love doing is connecting and grounding in with nature. So, literally put your phone away. I know it's hard in the society that we live in, but turn your phone on silent, put it in another room, go outside for 20 minutes to an hour, however long you have, and just sit outside on the ground, look up at the sky, and just allow yourself to be present. That is one of the best ways to regulate your nervous system. Another thing I love doing is body scans. So just sitting with yourself, closing your eyes, doing a couple of deep breaths, and just noticing what your body is trying to tell you. Because our body holds so much wisdom, and a lot of times we're just so disconnected from it because we're constantly in this go, go, go hustle mentality. But when you just stop and listen, you're going to get so much information from it. So, doing a body scan, starting at your head, moving down through your jaw, your throat, your heart space, your womb, down through your legs, and just noticing what is present for you. Another ritual is box breathing or just doing, breathing techniques. There's all different breathing techniques that you can do. I love like alternate nostril breathing. You can do just depending on if you want to activate sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. But there's so many different rituals. And I think the last thing I want to mention that's so important is pleasure rituals. So, pleasure meaning have fun, nourish your inner child, do things that light you up and bring you so much energy. Life doesn't always need to be so serious. So, if you love running outside, rollerblading, painting, doing a pottery class, like bringing stuff into your life that just allows you to be a kid again, that in itself is one of the best ways to regulate your nervous system and just come back to yourself.
Honestly, I felt so called out when you said procrastination because I am a massive procrastinator, and it genuinely is just like I've been to therapy in the past with regards to a different issue, but we genuinely like we covered this too. And I realized that my biggest fear is what other people will think just because I was bullied too, just like yourself. So I felt so called out. I was like, oh my God, I feel so seen. But yeah, I absolutely love this. And also like you've mentioned so many amazing tools that are so easy to implement. So, how would you like, if this is a very random question, and I think it's going to be quite a challenging to answer. If you had to rate all of the tools in your repertoire, number one being like the top easiest and most efficient thing, down to however many tools you have, how would you rate your tools? Like, what would you first recommend starting with and then moving on to the next?
Yeah. So I would say number one is like slowing down and becoming self-aware. Like without that, you can't even reach into your toolbox to start anything, right? If you're just like immediately like, okay, I'm gonna start tapping, I'm gonna go nourish my inner child, you're still like in this like energy of like needing and forcing and pushing. So, like, first and foremost, slow down, put your phone away, get quiet with yourself, and ask yourself, what am I needing in this moment? And just sit there and get quiet. Once you figure that out, I would honestly say the next thing would probably be like EFT tapping. I think that's such a great way to then regulate the nervous system, come back into your body, get into a place of feeling safe again. I would do a couple rounds of tapping until you feel your energy shift. The next thing I would say is once you feel like you are in that really safe place, you could then maybe do some breathing if you feel like it's necessary. But honestly, the next thing that comes to my mind is like playing and having fun. Like, okay, you've regulated your nervous system, you've gotten out of the fight or flight, you're in a good place, you feel like you're good. It's like, okay, remove the pressure, remove the force, remove the I have to do all of this stuff in order to be worthy, and just be like, okay, how can I like bring more play into my life today? Because that immediately is going to shift you into a completely different frequency. And when you're vibrating at a higher frequency, you're attracting in all your desires, the abundance, the love, the success, whatever it is that you're calling in. But if you're in this place of constantly like, I need to fix myself, I need to heal, I need to do all this inner work, it's just like you're constantly looking for something to fix. And I have been realizing over this week of what if there's nothing to actually fix right now? What if it's just about being with yourself, loving where you are right now, messy, chaotic, not messy, like whatever, journey you're in the season of life, and just being present with yourself and nourishing your body and doing things that bring you energy and peace and happiness. And I would say that is what I would do, because there's nothing better than just bringing a little fun into things that might feel mundane. Like, you're washing the dishes, throw one of your favorite songs on or your favorite podcasts. Like, make mundane tasks that you have to do every day more fun, because it'll just shift everything in your life.
I love this so much because the reason why I wanted to ask this, like, I didn't even plan for it, but I just feel like we get bombarded with so much
Yes.
of,
Oh,
you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to fix this, like, you have to heal. And you're like, okay, I'm working like a 9 to 5 and I have like 3 side hustles and I'm taking care of people
mhm.
around me and I'm trying to work on myself, but I feel broken because I'm stuck in these patterns. I have to do so many different things. I absolutely love this. Slowing down, yes. And just literally, it's the most important thing because unless you actually create that space for yourself, you're not going to be able to work on anything else. There has to be like a proper like list of priorities
I
and
was
you have
just
to
gonna
prioritize.
say prioritizing is so important, because when I say like bring more fun into your life and slow down, it doesn't mean abandon your goals and not show up for yourself and not go to the gym. Like, that's not at all what I'm saying, because I'm a very ambitious person and I do think that there's so much benefit to slowing down and resting and listening to your body. But again, there's a time and a place for all of it. But this still means showing up for yourself, building your business, doing the things that, move the needle forward. But at the same time, not overextending yourself, not putting everyone's needs before your own, not putting so much pressure on yourself and doing things out of like a need versus a want. And it's like, just again, coming back home to yourself and getting clear on like, what are my priorities? How can I bring more fun into this? And how can I just get into a place where I'm just in flow versus like push and force?
Yes, exactly. And then you also mentioned sort of like, not necessarily always having to heal. Again, I feel like, we've both seen a lot of these ads telling us and people telling us constantly, like, we're women, we're always,
Mhm.
quote, unquote, needing to fix something. In a world where everybody is telling you that you need to heal, that you need to fix yourself, how do you kind of like navigate that? And how do you just use these tools and routines to pour into yourself? And how do you shift your mindset towards that instead of acting from a space of need?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was really in this energy of like pushing and forcing over the last year. And I just realized this week that things just felt very unaligned. I was like, okay, I'm not showing up from a place of like heart and soul led. I'm showing up from like okay, I'm going to stay consistent and I'm going to post, and it still is authentic, but it just doesn't feel like it's coming from like that really soul nourishing place. And I really started realizing, I'm like, wow, every time I go onto Instagram, it's like, here's how to uncover your block. Here's how to fix this, and push, push, push. And I was so in this trap this past year of, okay, if I feel like this, then there must be another subconscious block. Like, there must be something else I need to fix. And this week, I just had a really big awakening of, maybe there's nothing to fix. Maybe I am exactly where I'm meant to be right now on this healing journey. Maybe this uncertainty or whatever it is that's happening is here for a reason. It's trying to teach me something. And so, what I've been doing to really get myself through this messy middle, you could say, or just this like period of like, I'm done fixing, is spending more time outside in nature, going to the beach, getting sun on my face, going for long walks, disconnecting from my phone. And another thing that I got caught in the trap of is reading all these self help books, all these self help podcasts. Like, my brain literally cannot handle another word. Like, I was telling my friend this yesterday, I'm like, I just feel like I have so much noise in my life right now. And on top of that, trying to build a healing business. And so I finally realized, like, maybe it's not about fixing. Maybe you don't need to do all of this right now. And maybe it's just time to literally pause all of that, listen to things that make you laugh, watch a funny movie. Like last night, I watched a funny movie and it got me completely out of my head. I went and sat outside on the ground for literally an hour, just staring up at the sky, no phone, disconnect, yoga, little sound healing. Like, just allow yourself to just do things that actually make you smile and laugh. And with zero expectation, because sometimes when we're so wrapped up in this whole healing and fixing and finding, it becomes toxic and it becomes addictive. And allow yourself to just be you. So, to wrap this kind of up, like ask yourself, like, what can I do today to have a little bit more fun? What can I do today to nourish my body and to just be present and to quiet all of the outside noise? Because, oh my gosh, I don't know if it's the full moon or what, but lots of energy this week.
Yes, yes. And I love that you said sort of like just quiet, like shutting out the noise. Because even I found myself just, maybe it was last year, just falling into this trap of like, oh my God, I need to become a better marketer. I need to, listen to all of these like business podcasts. And I was listening to like one podcast at least every single day. And then I realized I can't think about anything else. Like I've lost myself. So recently, what I've been implementing for the past like 8 months-ish is just mindfulness walks, just shutting out that noise. And also, if I wanted to listen to something, I either called someone I love or listened to a comedy podcast. I would highly, highly recommend it, by the way. If you need a recommendation, Smosh reads Reddit stories. Hilarious. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, I really do appreciate sort of like you sharing all of this because
Oh
it's
my
just so
gosh.
much.
It's been on my mind, and I know so many people are feeling this way and not that many people are talking about it. And it's like when you're constantly on that side of Instagram where all you're seeing is the healing and the deep inner work. And again, nothing bad about that in sense of like there is a place and a time I've had to do the deep inner work, and you do have to do the inner work. Like I'm not saying you can bypass that and feel good all the time. Like that's not at all it. But there is a time that comes where you've done a lot of deep inner work and you literally just need to allow yourself to be, like simply.
Yeah. Yes. And also, one other thing that I would love to add here is obviously like you have to do the inner work, like the deep, deep freaking work that is super, super hard. But if you constantly follow 10 different people's advice, it's gonna leave you even worse. So I absolutely, absolutely love this. And this is just a tip for anyone and everyone. Like nutrition is literally what you consume. So just unfollow everyone who doesn't serve you. And if you're in this healing journey or if you're working on any goal, choose two, maximum three people, follow them, mute everyone else.
Yeah, and I wish I would have followed that for myself, because this past year I hired so many coaches and listened to so many people. And to be honest, it made everything so much more confusing. So thank you for bringing that up. Like, follow just a couple of people that you genuinely really resonate with and just listen to them, because we live in an era and a society where there is so much information, but it can also just make things feel so much heavier.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So obviously we have covered all of the tools and we covered EFT. We covered your journey to not just healing, but stepping away,
Mm.
constantly having to heal and stepping into sort of like pouring into yourself. Can you share any sort of like transformations, obviously either personal, you've already shared your journey, but if you have any sort of like transformations or shifts that really stand out for you from your own journey or some clients' journeys, just to show off sort of like how EFT can really transform and like regulating your nervous system can really transform your life?
Definitely. Yeah. So in the beginning of my journey with EFT, so let's just say prior to EFT, I was starting to build out my business, and I would get excited, I would get these ideas, and then as soon as I would go to post it, procrastinate. And I would get in my head, I was stuck in like this, anxiety and overwhelm, and I couldn't make any decisions. It was just like my mind would loop and I would freeze. And so finally it was like, oh my gosh, what is this procrastination? And so many people think like procrastination just means they're lazy, but it's literally completely opposite. It's simply a protective mechanism, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, and there's a fear underneath that. So as soon as I was introduced to EFT tapping, I started to uncover the root of my self-sabotage. So it turned out that I was scared of rejection. I was scared of being seen. And one of my deep subconscious beliefs that I actually just uncovered a couple weeks ago is that if I shine too bright, I lose people that I love. And so there was still a piece of me that would show up, but I wouldn't fully show up. Like I was still kind of dimming my light and not fully taking up space. And as soon as I started doing EFT tapping every single day, my confidence skyrocketed. Like I realized like my self-concept shifted, my identity shifted, and I felt so much more rooted and grounded in who I was and my mission behind my business. And so I finally started realizing like, oh, like this is why I was self-sabotaging. It was just this underlying fear. And when I tapped through it with EFT tapping, I rewired that belief into I am worthy of showing up. I am enough just the way that I am. I don't need to prove myself to anyone else. The right people will love me and celebrate me no matter what. And so it was just like shifting from those fears into the empowerment, regulating my nervous system to finally feel safe to take action. I think that's the other thing is people so many times say like I don't have time, or I keep procrastinating and hitting a wall and I can't figure out why. A lot of times it's because you just don't have the capacity. Your nervous system is dysregulated. You're wired for survival. You're in fight or flight or freeze, and you literally can't take action. So it's like when you use EFT tapping, not only are you regulating your nervous system, you're then rewiring your beliefs. So it completely transformed the way that I showed up in my business. Like I started posting more consistently. I started to actually feel like, okay, I believe in myself. Like this is what I'm meant to be doing. And everything just started shifting. Like the way I showed up, my energy, my frequency. And then client wise, I have a client who came in with a lot of anxiety. She didn't like going to anywhere where she would have to like speak up in crowds or in group environments. She was having a hard time meeting people and making friends and a lot of anxious thoughts. And with EFT tapping, again, we were able to get her feeling safe within herself first. So, what we did is we obviously did a lot of EFT sessions, a lot of embodiment sessions, getting her really regulated out of the survival, out of that anxious feeling all the time. And within 3 months, she was actually like going to all of these hikes with other people. She was putting herself in environments where once she felt so uncomfortable. And it was just like, I would never do that. She was doing things so out of her comfort zone. She became a lot more confident because she struggled a lot with insecurities and needing external validation to feel that sense of worthiness. And through EFT tapping, we were able to really rewire her beliefs and also get her to a place where she was able to start to make a lot of positive changes in her life. And I think that's the beauty of EFT is it's gentle, but it's also so profound.
Absolutely, absolutely love that. And I genuinely don't think that most of the people listening to this episode had any idea about how much of a shift it can create just to quote unquote tap on your body. But it genuinely is such an amazing thing. I like to ask, and this is something new that I want to do with everyone and anyone who comes onto the podcast. I would love to ask you this question because the podcast is called Ambitiously Aligned. What does being ambitious and aligned in this ambition mean for you?
Ooh, I like this question. So I would say ambitious means that you are still going after your goals. You know deep down that you are put on this planet for something so much more. Like you have a deep intuitive soul calling and you're constantly striving to reach those goals. But aligned means that you're doing it from a heart and a soul led place. So you're not just trying to get to the end destination, you're actually enjoying who you're becoming in the process. You're enjoying the journey. You're holding yourself through the ebbs and the flows of life. You're regulating your nervous system. You're taking care of your mind, body, and soul. And alignment for me is just feeling so in flow. Like you're excited to show up, you're energized, you're lit up about whatever it is that you're doing in your life, and you're following your soul's calling. Like that for me is alignment because when you're out of alignment, things feel heavy. It feels like you're pushing against something, you're forcing, you're just like doing it to check the box. And I did that for so many years of my life. And even recently, that's how things have felt. It's like, okay, I'm posting and I'm checking the box, but like, is this actually in alignment? And so I think like ambitious and aligned is I love that together because I'm so ambitious, but also you want to make sure you're in alignment and not just doing things because society tells you it's right, or because your friends and family expect something of you, or because you think that whatever you're posting will, that's what people want to hear, but it's not actually coming from a true place of being heart and soul led.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And I really, really love how in depth you went. So, I guess my last question before we drop your socials and where people can find you would be, how are you being ambitiously aligned in your journey at the moment in business with coaching and mentoring? I'd love to hear all about like what's coming up, what are the things that we are working on, obviously in alignment.
These are so fun. Okay, so ambitious part of it, definitely working out. I've been doing a lot of weightlifting, showing up for myself physically. Like it's truly changed my life. I never would have ever thought I'd be a gym girl. If you would have told me this 3 years ago, I would have laughed at you. So I would say ambitious wise, like showing up for myself, going to the gym. Business wise, I would say right now, stepping through a lot of fears. I'm putting myself in environments that I once didn't feel worthy of being in. So I'm actually leaving to a retreat in Brazil in a week and a half. It's like kind of business mixed with like hypnotherapy and getting into spaces where other people are doing really massive things and just normalizing success and all of it. And so just really pushing through the fears. I would say the other thing ambitious is just allowing myself to create things that actually feel incredible. And I guess this goes into alignment as well, but just coming from that heart and soul led place. So I have my podcast, Her Journey Home, which is definitely so in alignment. I'm obsessed with it. I would also say I really want to start talking a lot more about the whole like not needing to fix yourself, like you're worthy just the way that you are. So creating a lot more content around that. I have my Journey Home program, which is called The Journey Home. And so, really, just like again, creating from a place of just really feeling amazing, like a place of like, okay, this is exactly the wisdom that I want to share with the world. And it's coming from such a place of truth. And whoever it lands with, I know it's going to reach the right people, and the right people will be magnetized to it. And letting go of all of the things that I've learned from, you have to post this many times and you have to have this type of content, or you have to only talk about this and be in this niche. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Like, I think just like letting go of all of these things that we've learned and coming back to your truth. Like that is the most important thing in this world, is what is your truth? Because someone's truth and what worked for them may not be your truth, and it might not work for you. And I think I'm trying to let go because it can feel really heavy and really scary to let go of what we know and what we're comfortable with and what our body and our nervous system feels safe with. And then just following our true heart and soul's desires, because that's actually going to get you where you need to go. So that's my current journey.
And with regards to your current journey, obviously you've got all the ambition and alignment. Where can people find you if they want to find out more about what you do? Do you have any programs? Do you have any events coming up? Obviously, you said that you're going to Brazil on a retreat. So exciting.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Sophia Graniela. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. You can also listen to Her Journey Home, the podcast, on Apple and Spotify Music. If you are a free spirit, ambitious woman, and you just know that you're meant for so much more, and you're ready to come home to yourself, to step into your confidence, your authenticity, and build a life that lights your soul on fire, then listen to the podcast, because I have a lot of deep and vulnerable conversation. I also have my Journey Home program, which is a 3-month, 90-day intimate one-to-one program to guide you back into safety, coming home to yourself, really becoming your own source of validation and getting to a space where you can create the life of your dreams. Follow me on my personal Instagram, listen to the podcast, DM me, connect with me. I would be so honored to walk this journey with you.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for hopping on the podcast.
Yes, thank you
I
for
had
having me.
an amazing time.
Of course, I'm so honored, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I absolutely cannot wait to see what's to come for you.
It's so exciting to have connected with you. And just, yeah, I'm so grateful that social media brought us together.